Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Your port, see currently what we have done from the service we are going to the port, which is this one, and from the port we are going to all these methods. That's what we are doing. Now if you call a method, like execute the method with respect to, let us say I'm passing one value. So currently this one is converting from Celsius to foreign heat. So just place it as 0 as of now. And I don't want to work on remaining methods. Just comment those stuff. I'm just interested only to work on converting Celsius to foreign heat, and I'm passing 0. And underscores and all are available. If you want, you can just change the names for your convenience, or else leave it as it is. So finally, it will be going to call the method Celsius to foreign heat, and will be going to pass the value. It was in big decimal format, and it will be going to respond back with some value, and I'm just printing that value. And here we have mentioned about WSDL location, which is nothing but our URL. So our URL, currently we are not at all talking to our local server. We are talking to some location which is webservices.taehosting.com. This particular location we are talking now. I'm connected to internet, so I can easily send a request over the internet to the service provider, and I can contact the service and can get the response. So let us go and execute this program now. Normally it won't take that much time. My system is very slow. Invoking Celsius to foreign heat, and you can see that it has sent the request to that, and it was able to receive the response as 32. For 0 it is 32, that is correct. Change the value and enter some other number, 20. Probably it will return as 64 kind of stuff. So the service provider is up and running, and we are able to communicate to the service provider over the web, and we are able to retrieve the result. Are you guys able to understand now at least some of the elements that are available, and what is the purpose of all those elements, and how those elements are related to WSDL file? Is that clear? Sort of. Okay. Yeah, we'll discuss that question once after the class, Sandeep. No, it's not at all required. I just explained only for your purpose. The next topic is how to handle the fault related stuff. So create the web service for this. Thus my server is up. Deploy a web service. See, currently I have created a web service using dynamic web project. So that means I can just copy the related files like webinf and metainf to the Tomcat location, and I can deploy the file. I can deploy the application. I'm sorry.
Okay, Krish. My question was, are we going to do something different with respect to web service when compared to a regular web application in terms of deployment?
No, you can directly deploy it as a normal application, normal web application to the Tomcat server. If you want to deploy it in using, if you want to deploy it, sorry, I distracted with some other question. If you want to deploy using enterprise server, so you have the option of writing the AND script, and your AND script consists of the tools like WSTL2 Java, whatever that we have discussed with respect to Apache CXF. You just need to provide such information like what is the tool name, WSTL2 Java that you want to perform, and give the name of the WSTL file, and provide the location for source files and the location for dependent class files. So all those information will be going to provided with the AND command, and it will be going to generate the required files for your Java objects or the JAX-V classes, and you will be going to wrap it up using a WAR file, and will be going to deploy into the server.
Okay, Krish. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, those AND command will be going to discuss during this weekend or next week, but once after that we'll see how to generate the WAR file using AND script. Yeah, I guess Varlakshmi has asking another question here. Where are we using marshalling and unmarshalling like we used in JAX-V? It's not required for us to do. The process will be taken care by our JAX-WS. All that it needs is the JAX-V classes available, and the marshalling or unmarshalling and everything will be going to do internally by your JAX-WS, and then it will be going to wrap up the SOAP layer and then communicates with the server. I want to generate in the same project level, Apache Access CXF 2.x. The reason why I have explained the marshalling and unmarshalling is just for our understanding purpose, how the Java object is converted to an XML. Did we clear the client? Anytime, create an SEI, Service Endpoint Interface. Ops calculation service. Select one method, click on next. Generate client only, no need of going for server. Finish. The same example, what I have done is instead of placing it as an integer, we have converted that into string values now. So the parameter can be accepted by using strings. So we'll see what happens if we pass the string values now. String operations, the server code, it got deployed onto the Tomcat. Go and verify the WSTL that got generated. So this is the WSTL that got generated by our Apache CXF, and this is the endpoint location. Go and verify in Internet Explorer whether it was opening the WSTL or not. It was opening the WSTL. So the application was deployed properly onto the server. It's the same WSTL instead of integers. Now it consists of string values. This is the only change. Now the client code, it was there in a separate project. So in the same way, it consists of some classes related to JAXB and Object Factory and our standard 4 classes. Go to our port client. Verify whether the WSTL location was pointing correctly or not. Yes, it is pointing correctly. Come back to the method and change the values. So currently I'm entering 10, 35. Just trigger a request whether we are able to receive the positive response or not. Java application. Invoking add.result equal to 45. So that means our service is working fine. Now I'm just stopping the Tomcat server here because it will be going to collide with my client. I will start from my normal Windows. Apache Tomcat. Web apps consist of string operations. Fine. Go to bin. Startup. See, our client and server both are available at the same location. So if we make use of the same, then the logs will get overridden. Now the request will be going to trigger here, and we can see the server processing in our Tomcat. Server got started. Go and execute it now. This is the SOAP that got generated. Yesterday we have seen this. Argument 10 and argument 35. Finally, it will be going to respond with return value, which is 45. Now go and change this to some string. See, normally it should throw an exception at the server level itself, because our ops calculation here what we are doing, we are converting it into an integer. So while converting, the parseInt method will be going to throw a number format exception. Go and run the program now. What happened to this? Why it is not processing the request? It was in running mode. Let me restart the Eclipse. Meanwhile, we'll take a look at the elements. See, until now, how we are receiving the response? Yeah, Srinath, go ahead.
Krish, actually, I'm sorry, I'm not able to really catch everything. But can you just at a high level give me, state the bullet points, when you need to create a web service. So basically what I understood is you created same plain old simple Java class, and then you use the Apache CXF utility to create to convert that thing into a web service. And after that, what are the things that you need to check, to run that thing? Could you state that as just a high level points again? I know you went through all the different files. I was trying to, catch, view, but I was not really able to catch everything. So can you just at a brief at a high level, what are the things that we need to do, we need to look for after those classes are generated to run that?
Yeah, what you can do is you can just go through the yesterday's class, the recorded session.
Okay.
You'll be definitely able to place all the required files, and what you can do is you can create one web service application. Just write a small class in your Eclipse and configure the Apache CXF.
Okay.
And once after that, just follow the recorded session. You'll definitely able to understand all the class files created.
Okay, I was looking for just 4 or 5 bullet points that I need to do, but.
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah,
okay. That's fine.
Yeah. And more, and in today's class also I have explained the same whatever that we have discussed yesterday. I just elaborated them and explained it again one more time. So did you miss any of the points, or are you not able to understand any of the stuff that I have explained?
I think just like going between the files, it's just way too fast for me. I'm not able to really just
okay,
pay really. By the time I catch one thing and really sinks in, it's really fast. We move on to the next thing. But it's okay. I can go back and listen to the recording and then try to get that. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, because what I want to show is I just want to show the interaction between the WSDL and the Java conversion. And by looking at the WSDL file, I guess the code will be easy to understand.
Okay.
If you are able to understand the WSDL file, by looking at the WSDL file, then by looking at this WSDL interaction, it will be very much easy to understand how our Java code communicates between these elements.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, if at all, if you are not able to, then let me know. Okay. Yeah, let us execute it now. Why it is not able to process the request? And there are no error messages also. Let me debug this one. problem with our Tomcat server. Why it is not taking the request? It was not able to open the WSDL file. Let me restart our Tomcat server. Oh, oops, something got piled off. Did we make our code, server code? Public string add, taking two parameters, add operation called, num1 plus num2, system.out.println, some value, return string.value of sum. Just the basic method. Do you have a throw exception? Actually, it was not required for us to throw an exception. SOAP should handle the exception that got generated, and it was supposed to return back to the client with a SOAP fault message. That's what I'm trying to see. Yeah. Let me go over the error message. So currently, what are we doing here? We are just sending the argument 0 and argument 1 and two numbers, but the first one we are sending it as a string and the second one as a number. Invoking add. Here, it has reached, the request has reached to the server. Go and verify at the top level. The request has reached. You can see that argument 0 as string and argument 1 as 35. And here it was displayed the message add operation called. This is at the server level. And here it has thrown an exception. You can see that for input string str, number format exception has occurred. But at the server level, we don't have any handling for the exception. So that means what it will do is, see, whenever a method was not capable of handling the exception, where the exception will be thrown, the exception will be going to thrown back to the caller method. So the caller method for this is our web service or your CXF. So our CXF will be going to read that particular error message and it will be going to create a SOAP fault exception message. Let us copy this one. Go and create an XML file. This is the SOAP XML that got generated by your container. The top level envelope it will be going to contain, and inside the body either it can contain your actual response, but this time there is no proper response and it has generated an error message. So here you can see that it has created a SOAP fault, and the fault code is SOAP:server. So that means server exception has occurred. Sometimes it will be going to place it as SOAP:client, which means client exception has occurred. If at all, if your message or if your server, the service provider, was not capable of handling the exception will be going to handle by your SOAP itself and will be going to create a SOAP fault message and will be going to respond back to the client. So currently what happened was even our client also not handling the exception. So here we are not at all handling the exception and the exception was thrown back to our main method. So whenever there is an exception occurred with respect to the service provider, it will be going to create an object called javax.xml.ws.SOAP:fault_exception. So whenever you are making a calls to the operations, you are supposed to handle this particular exception whenever there are any error messages occurred, and you are supposed to catch those exceptions and you can retrieve the actual information about the error. So currently, this is the method that will be going to throw the exception. So I'm just putting that in a try catch block. So in a try catch block, you can see that here itself you can see what is the error message that got raised, javax.xml.ws.soap.fault_exception. Just catch that exception instead of throwing it back to your main thread. Local variable not assigned. Oops. So your exception object, here you have mentioned that from your fault message, you can retrieve the fault code and fault string. So for your SOAP fault exception block, you can just retrieve e.getFault, which means the top level element getFault, store it in a separate object, and once after that, what are the two things? Fault.getFaultCode and getFaultString. So now from our client side, instead of throwing it back to the main method, we are able to retrieve the SOAP fault error message, and we are able to retrieve what is the error code and what is the error message. And based on these two informations, we can easily fix the error that will be going to generated by our service provider. So now run our client one more time. So this time also it has generated a SOAP fault. And here you can see that the fault code has received as SOAP:server or else we won't print the E from print stack trace. Now you can see that in our exception handle block, fault code is SOAP:server and fault string is for input string str. So the number format exception has occurred for input string str that got generated by our SOAP handler. This is how normally you will be going to handle by using SOAP fault class or SOAP fault exception. Or else if you want to handle the exception at the server level itself, you can just put all this in a try catch block. So finally, once after handling the exception, here you are handling the exception manually, but finally we want to send only fault message to the user. So create a SOAP fault object, SOAP fault exception object, and create a SOAP fault, or else write it separately. Your SOAP fault is an interface, so you don't have any access of creating the objects using an interface. So it should be created by using your SOAP factory class. Your SOAP factory is just like your session factory kind of stuff. You'll be going to ask your factory create an instance, and after that there are all the create methods. Either you can create an element or name, or you can create your fault object. And once after getting the fault object, you can just add the error messages or add the error code. Fault.set fault code. Let us say I want to set it as 500 errors because this is a server exception. And after that, set fault string. Number format exception occurred for e.get localized message. This is our actual exception message. So finally, you want to respond back to the client with a SOAP fault. Unhandled exception type SOAP exception. This is also throwing one more exception. Once you have handled at the server level, just deploy into the server one more time, because your Tomcat server contains old code. So now go and execute our client. So here you can see that the fault code that was written as SOAP:SE500, which was set in our server side, and after that number format exception occurred on the localized message for whatever the parameter that it was specified it as number format exception will be going to associate with our actual error message and will be going to respond it back to the user. So by looking at this error message, the client will be going to understand that there is an issue with the input parameter. So on the server side, we are supposed to create a fault exception. So, but the fault is SOAP fault is an interface, and we don't have any classes or objects that are related to the SOAP fault. So that is why we are asking the factory to provide the one fault object. Sorry, once we got the fault object, you can set the fault code and fault string. But finally, we are supposed to respond with SOAP fault exception only. So the SOAP fault exception accepts a parameter SOAP fault, and we'll be going to set that one and respond back to the client. On the client side, you will be going to receive anyway the SOAP fault exception, because here you are throwing the same from the server side. From the server side, you are throwing SOAP fault exception. So the client side, you are going to receive the SOAP fault exception, and that will be going to contain the fault message, which will be going to contain those two strings, the code and the fault message value. This is how normally the errors will be going to handled by using.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website H2KInfosys.com. On our website H2KInfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@H2KInfosys.com or H2KInfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.